Hello students, let's begin poem number 2 of Flamingo. This is an elementary school classroom in a slum. Stephen Spender, the poet, was born in 1909 and died in 1995. He was an English poet and an essayist. He left University College, Oxford, without taking a degree and went to Berlin in 1930. Spender took a keen interest in politics and declared himself to be a socialist and pacifist. Books by Spender include poems of dedication, The Edge of Being, The Creative Element, The Struggle of the Modern World, and an autobiography, World Within World. In an elementary school classroom in a slum, he has concentrated on themes of social injustice and class inequalities. Let's begin the poem. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. Far, far, that means quite far away or miles away, at a huge distance. From gusty waves. Waves are gusty, strong wind is blowing, and this line reflects the nature. These children's faces. These children refer to the slum children. These children's faces are like rootless weeds. Simile. Comparison between the children's faces and the rootless weeds. Rootless weeds are not firm in the soil because they don't have roots, so they don't have strength. In the same manner, the slum children's faces have unkempt hairs scattered all over their face. They are looking undernourished, pale, and malnutritioned, so they are also not strong enough. Thus, there is a comparison between these two. The hair torn round their pallor. Pallor means pale face. So the hair of these children, these are scattered all around their face. The tall girl with her weighed down head. Now the poet is talking about the classroom, and he is explaining how many different kinds of children are there in the classroom. He has given a grim picture that all these children, they are undernourished and malnutrition. They do not have proper kempt hair and dresses, etc., like the children of rich areas or rich people, but rather they are mm, they are quite unkempt hair. They are having quite unkempt hair, which are scattered all over their face. There is a tall girl with her weighed down head. So there is a tall girl in the class, and her head is weighed down. It is weighed down because she is carrying the burden of poverty and suffering throughout her life. It's not literally that she is carrying any burden right now, but it is symbolical that she's carrying the burden over her head because she is born in a slum. That's why she is carrying the burden of poverty and sufferings. The paper seeming boy, another boy who appears to be like that of a paper, that means quite skinny, thin, with rat's eyes, and his eyes are just like that of a rat. Again, comparison without using the word like or as, so it is metaphor. So the boy has rat's eyes. It means as the rat's eyes are inquisitive, they are always curious to search something to eat. This boy's eyes are also like rat's eyes, searching for food to satisfy his hunger. The stunted, unlucky hair of twisted bones. One more boy who has the stunted bones. Stunted means twisted bones. Because of undernourishment, malnutrition, the boy has acquired this disease of rheumatism or twisted bones from his father. So, The stunted unlucky hair of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease. This disease is called gnarled as well. G is silent. His lesson from his desk, and he is reciting his lesson from his desk. The boy is reading out, although he does not seem to be interested um, in the topic, still he's reciting his lesson from his desk. At the back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet, and young. And at the back of the dim class, there is a child, there is a boy who is unnoticed by others. He is quite sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream. He is different from all the other children of the classroom because his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So he is watching outside the classroom through the window. He can see that there is a tree, and in its tree room a squirrel is playing. It shows the freedom of the squirrel to move up and down and careless look due to which she is enjoying. In the same manner, the boy is also dreaming to have that careless look and that freedom to go out and enjoy, although now he is bound in the classroom, but he does not seem to be interested in this dull and boring classroom. So, this is stanza 1. Hope you have understood the stanza. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head. The walls of the classroom are sour cream, that means pale and dull, because they have been painted long ago by donations, and lately they are not getting any donations, and that's why these have not been painted for long. Their plaster or whitewash has fallen off, has come out, and they are looking quite pale and dull, that is colorless. Shakespeare's head. There is Shakespeare's portrait hanging on the wall. Cloudless at dawn. Civilized dome riding all cities. And there is a map hanging in the classroom which is reflecting the areas or the settlements of the rich. The areas of the rich, these are cloudless at dawn. Dawn means morning. So these areas are having clear sky. Civilized dome riding all cities. These are the structures of civilized societies. Belled Flowery, Tarlees Valley. Tarlees Valley is shown, is visible in the map, which is full of beautiful flowers. Open handed map awarding the world its world. It is an open handed map and it is showing the world its world. Whose world is referred here? It is the world of the rich which is being visible in the map. And this map with the world of the rich is hanging in a slum classroom. So the Shakespeare's head, that means portrait, and this map both are odd in this situation. They are not suitable to the scenario because this is a slum classroom. There is no serious teaching or higher level of teaching done so that the children are able to understand Shakespeare's literature, or there are not those children who are living in such rich settlement. They are living in slums, and those slums are not visible in this map. That's why both the things are odd here. Affording the world its world, and yet for those children, for these children again, slum children, these windows, not this map, their world. So here the poet is trying to tell us that for these children, for the slum children, their world is out of these windows, because out of these windows they can see the slums where they are living. So that is their world, and not this map, because the map is not showing the slums. map is showing the rich settlements where all their future is painted with a fog. And when they see the world outside these windows, what do they observe? That they have no hope, no bright, no hope of any brightness or light in their future. It is all dark, grim, pale, opaque, dull. So they don't, it's bleak, their future is bleak and dull. It's not having any kind of hope of brightness of becoming good in their future. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky. Slum areas have narrow streets, and these streets are packed with lead sky. That means again darkness. So they have lost all hopes of having any brightness in their future. Far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Again, the beauties and bounties of nature, they are far away from them. Because the slum children who cannot have two square meals, how can they enjoy nature's beauty? Nature's beauty can only be enjoyed by those who have had their fill. If their basic requirements are fulfilled, their basic necessities are fulfilled, then only they can think about enjoying nature. But these children, they are far away from these things. Surely, Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example. Exactly, as I explained you earlier, Shakespeare is wicked because he's odd here, he is not suitable for these children, as his high level literature cannot be understood by these children. And the map a bad example because the map contains the settlements of the rich, the Tarleys Valley, beautiful nature, and not the slums. So, the map is also a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. So, when these children they see sun, ships, they are tempted to steal because they are not able to get these things. These things are out of the reach of such children, and thus, when they see something like that, they are tempted to steal for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes, because the lives of these children are slyly means secretly, turn in their cramped holes. Cramped holes have been used for hut, hutments, slums in which they are living. These are very small spaces where they cannot even stretch their legs. You might have referred to any of the slums. You can see that these are very areas 8 by 8 or 10 by 12, and a family of 6 to 8 living in that particular area, they cannot have uh, space to stretch legs even, and they keep their legs cramped, that means turned, twisted. So their their life has all fog to endless night, means their life begins with fog and ends in endless night. That means throughout their life they are bound to live in dark, bleak, opaque world, the night which never ends. They do not have ever brightness or the sun in their life. It's not the literal meaning that they cannot see sun. It's because they don't have any hope of getting something better in their future. That's why it is referred here. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel. So these children are just a, you can say, heap of bones, because they do not get proper food. They are just heap of bones, and over which they are wearing their skin, and the bones are peeping out of their skin, peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel, and they are wearing spectacles of steel, steel rimmed spectacles, um, steel rimmed spectacles which have broken glasses, and they have mended these glasses, repaired these glasses, which appear to be like bottle bits on stones, as if they have um, pasted glass pieces together. So these glasses also, spectacles also, they cannot afford, and they have been using some spectacles which are discarded by any rich boy. All of their time and space are foggy slum. Their whole life, their whole time is spent in foggy slum. Now you can understand why the slum is foggy, because there is no light of hope. So blot their maps with slums as big as doom. So the maps which do not have slums, the slums should be visible there, because it would prove as a blot on the map, and it would be as big as doom, that is hell. Unless, now in the last stanza, see, stanza 1, the poet has explained the condition of the slum classroom. Stanza 2, he has explained that what different things are available in the classroom. Stanza 3, he has again expressed the condition of the slum children, in what kind of world are they living. And stanza 4, the poet is trying to make an appeal, a request to some big bosses like governor, inspector, visitor, that if these big people, when they visit the school, they can make some efforts to bring about changes in the condition of these slum children. That's why the poet is requesting them. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. He says this map becomes their window. That these people, the visitor, governor, inspector, etc., they must make some efforts in order to bring changes in the life of these slum children, so that this map which is there in the classroom should become their window. And these windows refers to the windows of the classroom, slum classroom, that shut upon their lives like catacombs. Catacombs are grave like structure. So these windows of the classroom which are shutting or confining them to the walls of the slum, to the area of the slum, such as graveyards, break open. So again he is requesting these people, that these people should break open the chains or those structures in which these children are confined, that uh, the chains the chains which are binding these children. So the poet hopes that these children would one day break free from the chains of the slums, and they will rise above all atrocities and economic injustice, and will create a beautiful world for themselves. So the poet is trying to say that break open the slums, the chains which the slums are binding them, and show the children to green fields, and let them enjoy green fields, let them enjoy nature, give them freedom to make their own world and experience joy, make their world run azure on gold sands, let them enjoy running under the blue sky on golden sand, and let their tongues run naked into books, and let them, they should be allowed to read freely from the books as well as from the nature. The white and green leaves open, history theirs whose language is the sun. The poet ends the poem on this positive note, because he believes that if these children are allowed to discover, they are allowed to have opportunities and facilities, right to education, to learn from nature as well as from books, then they will certainly create history. They are going to create their space under the sun. So that's all with the poem. We can just discuss a few things of literary devices used in the poem, although I have referred to one or two in the beginning. That is, first of all, like rootless weeds. In the very first line, you can see like rootless weeds. Yes, second line, like rootless weeds, where children's faces have been compared to rootless weeds. So this is simile. Again, in stanza 3, you can see like bottle bits on stones. It in simile. Then you have seen like catacombs. That is again stanza 3. Sorry, stanza 4, that shut upon their lives like catacombs. So these windows have been compared to catacombs. Catacombs are the grave like structures. So again, this is simile like catacombs. Then last line of stanza 3, that is slums as big as doom. Slums have been compared to dooms. That is, living in slum is compared to living in hell. Life in hell is like that of life in slums. So these are the similes you have experienced here. Then comes metaphor. In the very first stanza, you have seen the metaphor rat's eyes. The metaphor rat's eyes here means that the boy's eyes are just like that of a rat searching for food and security. Next metaphor is father's gnarled disease. Here, the quality of the life the boy is spending is severely affected by his father's handicap, and the boy's father is suffering from rheumatism. In the same manner, the boy is also having weakened body and twisted bones. Next metaphor, you can see squirrel's game. Squirrel's game is how squirrel is enjoying playing freely in the garden outside. It hops across the lawns, climbs up trees, and hides in tree room. So this is how it has been compared to the dream the boy is watching or observing or living in. So this is squirrel's game is metaphor. Then comes tree room. Tree room, that is the hiding place of the squirrel, hollow in the tree where the squirrel is hiding. Then the next one is future is painted with fog. Future has been compared to fog. Future is painted with fog. That means it is blurred like fog, and the slum children's future is blurred by lack of hope and absence of empathy. Then comes lead sky, again metaphor. The sky is normally bright and blue, but the lead sky here suggests dark and dull sky, which is leaving no hope for the slum children. Then next metaphor is spectacles of steel. This expression suggests that slum children are wearing spectacles made of steel with shattered or scratched glasses. So these are all the literary devices used here in the poem, and that's all.